Greetings, YouTube! The Doctor is in. Dr. Urias Papers here, coming at you with another commentary on Dungeons and Dragons. And we're doing another magic item today. This is another part of our magic item review. The magic item that we are reviewing today is the Bag of Tricks. We are giving this an A-. I really like this. There's a lot of good things about this. Is it a power gamer's dream? It is one of the power gamers' magic items that a lot of power gamers want to use in their, when they're sitting down at the table, because it can unbalance a game a bit. It gives players a certain advantage because of the certain things that you can do with it. But let's talk a little bit about this particular item. So we'll start out with our guy, Gary Gygax. Here he is right here. And back in 1979, when the Dungeon Master's Guide came out, this was one of the magic items that was in it. And so here is the description from the original Dungeon Master's Guide. And it says, as is usual, a bag of tricks appears to be of typical size for sacks, and visualize or other examination will not reveal any contents. However, if an individual reaches in, he will feel a small fuzzy object. If it is withdrawn and tossed 1 to 20 feet away, it will balloon into one of the following animals, which will obey and fight for the individual who brought it into being until the current combat terminates. So these were only good for a combat. And then the animal inside the bag of tricks are dependent upon what sort of bag is found, and then you roll a d10. So a lot of the elements with the original bag of tricks have made their way through every single one of the iterations of Dungeons and Dragons. And so we've got a type 1 through 5, a type 6 through 8, and a type 9 and 10. And the creatures are different in each one of these. They give some basic statistics for the creatures. So, and the second part of this says only one creature can be drawn forth at a time. It alone exists until it is slain or one turn has elapsed and it is ordered back into the bag. Another animal may then be brought forth, but it could be another just like the one which was drawn previously. Note that only one roll is made for the type of bag, but type of creature is rolled for each time one is drawn forth. Up to 10 creatures maximum may be drawn from the bag each week. So there are some flavors of these rules that made their way into the current edition of 5th edition, and there are some that are not. So there's a type of bag, which you would roll a d10 to figure out what type of bag that you have, and then you would roll a d8 to see what you pulled out. There wasn't a tan bag or a gray bag or something like that. It was just a type of bag, and then you would get an animal that would fight for you or do tricks or something like that. Now, the 5th edition version of this is right here, and it is a wondrous item that is uncommon and does not require attunement. So that part that where it does not require attunement did make its way into my assessment for the rank, because this is essentially, if you get one of these, it's a freebie magic item that you don't have to slot, you don't have to worry about. It's just there, and the creatures last for a while. So it's an ordinary bag. It's made of either gray, rust, or tan cloth, and it appears empty. Reaching inside the bag, however, you find a small fuzzy object, the very words that Gary Gygax used, and the bag itself only weighs half a pound, so it's rather light. So you can use an action to pull the fuzzy object from the bag and throw it up to 20 feet. So they kept that part from the original Dungeon Master's Guide. When the object lands, it transforms into a creature you determine by rolling a d8. So each one of the tables is still a d8. Same as the original Dungeon Master's Guide. You consult the table and you get what you get. Monster listings are in the monster manual, essentially. And then the creature vanishes at the next dawn, or when it is reduced to 0 hit points. Creature is friendly. It acts on your turn. You can use a bonus action to command how the creature moves and what action it takes on its turn, or you give it general orders, such as to attack your enemies. In the absence of such orders, the creature acts in a fashion appropriate to its nature. You can pull 3 of these out every day. So 3 a day. So for the week rule, in the Dungeon Master's Guide, you could pull 10 out per week. But with this, you can pull out 21 per week. So there's a somewhat of a difference between those. And then each bag has a different set of creatures. We're going to highlight some of the creatures in each one of the bags. So we've got a gray bag, and it has anywhere from a weasel down to a giant elk. Obviously, the giant elk is a good combat option. Rats and weasels and things like that could be not necessarily used for combat, but used for other endeavors that you have. The rust bag goes from a rat to an owl to a brown bear. And finally, the tan bag goes from a jackal to an ape down to a tiger. So let's talk about a few of these creatures. I want to highlight the giant elk. Out of the bag, I want to highlight, out of the gray bag, I want to highlight the brown bear. Out of the rust bag, and I want to highlight the ape baboon and giant hyena out of the tan bag. So one of the things that these bags are good for, you can pull 3 animals out a day, and essentially they're a bag of hit points. That's a good thing in combat. They can suck up some attacks from your enemies during a combat where they're attacking a animal that you just pulled out before the combat, because you can pull them out and have them follow you around all day long. You can pull up to 3 of them out, and you can have them follow you, and then once combat starts, they're there, and you don't really have to spend any actions. All right, so the giant elk, 42 hit points, 14 armor class, can do a ram attack, a hooves attack. If it charges at least 20 feet, it does an extra 2d6, and it can knock a creature prone. So there is some good stuff about this. Typically, the creatures from the bags, the most powerful ones, are challenge rating 1s or 2s. So good one, 42 hit points is pretty good. It's got a speed of 60 feet, so it can go far, really high strength. It's got an okay perception. Apparently, it understands Common, Elvish, and Sylvan, and it speaks Giant Elk. Okay. Next creature that we've got is the brown bear, which comes out of the rust bag. The brown bear has 34 hit points. It's a challenge rating 1. It's got multi-attack, so it gets a bite and a claw attack. They both do pretty good damage. It's got advantage on wisdom checks. It's got a speed of 40 feet, plus 3 perception. So all in all, I mean, this is a good bag of hit points to bring out from the rust bag. Now in the tan bag, I want to talk about the giant hyena, which has 45 hit points, a speed of 50. It has rampage, so when it's reduced to 0 hit points, then it can take a bonus action to move it to half its speed and make a bite attack. It's got a bite attack, which does okay damage, perception of plus 3. So again, another pretty good bag of hit points. Now, two of the other creatures I want to point out are the ape and the baboon. So the ape, the reason I point out the ape is because the ape has opposable thumbs, which means it can manipulate stuff. It's got okay hit points. It's a challenge rating half. It's got 19 hit points. It does have a multi-attack. It can throw rocks, which means you could use it with Magic Stone, which is a great spell. You give it magic rocks to throw, and it's got a plus 5 to athletics and a plus 3 to perception. And then it's got a fist attack. But the big thing is it can climb 30 feet, and it's got opposable thumbs, means it can open doors, it can open chests, it can open trap doors in the ceiling or the floor, it can push buttons, it can pull levers, all that stuff. And that's why I say traps. What are you talking about? Why do we care? Let's get the ape to go take care of it. Now, the other one is the baboon. Also has opposable thumbs. Baboons are challenge rating 0. It's only got 3 hit points. It's got pack tactics, so the baboon has advantage on attack rolls against a creature if it has at least one of the baboon's allies. That's you guys in your party. And it's got an attack. It doesn't do great, but it's got the thumbs, which means it can open doors. It can open chests, boxes, pull levers, push buttons. It can open trap doors in the floor or the ceiling. It's got a climb speed of 30 feet. Now, its strength is only an 8, whereas the ape's strength is a 16. So there is a big difference between these, but you could roll either one, and they're pretty good. A lot of these other creatures also, have some pretty good uses. But I would say for clearing dungeons, having them go over, if you got some of these bigger creatures, having them go over squares in the dungeon, like the giant elk could do this. It's huge. The brown bear is large, so those creatures are going to be big enough to trip weight-bearing traps. So there are those things. You don't really have to, with this particular item, there's a lot of situations where you can avoid having to go into a room, open a door, open a chest, pull a lever, push a button, pull down a ring chain, whatever, and you can have the animal do it. All right, that is what I have for everybody today. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch everybody